Newcomer, new me. You're new in Canada with a lot of excitement, ready to start the journey to apply to many jobs as possible. But after many applications, nobody's calling you. What's wrong? Is it you? Is it your resume? Well, my friends, let me tell you that your first step is about branding yourself. And today we have two specialists coming to help. Claudia Valcárcel from Access Employment, a non-for-profit organization that supports job seekers in the Greater Toronto area, and Dana Doswell, a marketing and communications professional with experience in Canada and Latin America. Dana, how are you?
Good. I'm super excited to be here. I think this is an awesome podcast that you guys are doing, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
And we're so excited of having you. So Dana, we want to start with the resume. When we're finally here in Canada, we are looking for a job and we need to create a resume. So could you give us three things we should focus on, especially when we don't have any Canadian experience? We have experience, professional experience from the countries we're coming from, but we don't have any Canadian experience at all. So how we should be highlighting that professional experience that we are bringing from our countries?
Awesome question. So a couple of different points here. And I just first want to start out that at SunDevs, a massive part of what we do is we actually source talent from Latin America that works remotely with US and Canadian companies. So a really big part of my job on a weekly basis is looking over resumes, kind of converting them from the Latin American style into the North American style, and then also helping to prepare these people for interviews. So you can imagine, I'm seeing probably like 20 to 30 resumes on a weekly basis right now. And so there's definitely a couple of differences that you really need to be aware of. So number one, do not put your photo on your resume. It's completely unprofessional in North America. It's just, again, a cultural difference. So completely unprofessional. So really make sure you don't have your photo on there. And something else that I see a lot is a lot of personal information like marital status, city you were born in, this kind of stuff. So if you're putting your resume together for North America, all you want at the very top of the page is your name. So like just your first name and your last name. If you have like a lot of middle names, like a lot of people in Latin America do, just put your first name and just put your last name. This will look much more North American style as opposed to having a really long name. So like for me, Dana Doswell, I'd put my email, the email I want them to contact me at, and my phone number. That is the only information that I'm going to put at the top of the page. And then right underneath, I'm going to put kind of my current title or what I'm known as. So let's say I'm a communication specialist, then I would put communication specialist underneath. So I know that's kind of a couple tips, but that's just the first one because I see that as a common mistake is the photo and a ton of personal information at the top of the resume. Do not include any of that. The second thing is that when you don't have any Canadian experience or no experience in the North American market, you need to add more context. So this can really depend on what your experience was. But for example, last year, I saw someone's resume. They're from Brazil and they'd worked with companies like L'Oreal and some other retail brands that we also have here in North America. So if that's the case, you really want to highlight that because even though it was in a different country, that's going to be a recognized brand name in the North American market. So there's two ways that you can highlight that experience is number one, in the little paragraph at the top of your resume where it says personal profile or just that little bit of text at the beginning, you can actually mention some of those brand names that might be more recognized at the top. It's going to catch the eye of the person that's looking at your resume and it's going to kind of motivate them to then go down and look at, okay, well, where is this experience? Like when did they work with L'Oreal? And then they're going to just start reading through like, okay, you were an account manager or you were a developer. So really making sure that second point is to really make sure that you can highlight any brand recognition or any of these similar brands that someone might know in North America by putting them in that kind of profile paragraph at the top. The third thing is making sure that you're using all the correct terminology because I've seen sometimes, if you're translating maybe from Portuguese or Spanish and you're making your resume, you need to make sure that you understand what your position is called in English, because sometimes we have different positions in North America that maybe don't exist in Latin America and vice versa. And so you need to make sure, if you were an account manager, that that's really what you were in, Brazil and Colombia and Mexico and Costa Rica. You need to make sure that's what it is. And then you need to make sure you're translating it properly and not just directly, because that's going to completely mess you up. As if you're applying for a job, you think that you think that you had this experience, but you're actually putting another title on your resume that indicates something else. That's going to look unprofessional and you're not going to get the job. So that's the third tip, is make sure that you're properly translating. And it's not only, the English fluency, it's making sure you truly understand the business term that needs to be used to explain your experience. So those would be my 3 tips: is remove all the personal information as much as possible. Number 2, any brands that would be easily recognized, make sure you highlight them in the personal profile area. And then number 3 is making sure that you understand truly the business terms to describe what you do.
Wow, thank you so much. Those are absolutely great tips. I'm sure that many people are going to take advantage of them. And now let's move on to that bio, that small introduction that we need to include in our resume, but also in our LinkedIn profile, which is so important, so relevant, especially in the Canadian labor market. So how long this introduction needs to be? Is there any recommendation on how it should be?
So I'll start with LinkedIn. And one thing that we really need to remember about LinkedIn is that it's a digital platform. So essentially your personal LinkedIn profile is almost like a mini website. So there's a term called SEO, search engine optimization. So that's like when you Google something, then Google will pick out the keywords and it'll show you the blog or the website that has the most and the most relevant keywords to what your search is. Google also does this in LinkedIn profiles. So if you Google something and somebody has it written in their LinkedIn profile and it's, maybe a really niche topic or something, their LinkedIn profile will literally come up in the Google search results. Same way if I search something actually within LinkedIn. So the reason why this matters is because if you are trying to promote yourself, you're trying to grow your network, you need to have a solid LinkedIn profile that truly indicates what you do and uses some of the keywords for your industry, but also for your job. This is how more people are going to find you, and the most relevant people are going to find you that are actually looking for what you do. Now, when you're on LinkedIn, you want to take advantage and you want to essentially fill up the character limit on your bio. Again, the reason for this is you can add in more keywords, you can be more relevant, and you're more likely to show up in a search. So that being said, I don't actually know what the character limit is of the bios on LinkedIn. So maybe go take a look at that, but definitely use it to the maximum, fill it out as much as possible. And there's a couple of different ways that you can approach the bio. Is some people approach it, talking in the third person, like Dana is currently the VP of business development. Personally, I don't like that. I'm a human. You're coming to my LinkedIn profile. So you can go take a look at mine. It's a good example of I combine kind of my story as well as what I actually do. And I think that this is a good approach because it kind of humanizes you. It allows somebody to get involved with you emotionally and be like, oh, cool. This person, I don't know, has 15 years of experience as a systems engineer in Mexico. It is now bringing, that experience to Canada. These are the types of companies that they're interested in. These are the passion projects that they've worked on. They love, learning Canadian culture. They discovered maple syrup, blah, blah, blah. They love this type of manufacturing environment. And so you kind of get that mix of what the career goals are in the story, which is just you as a human being. And again, this is going to help you connect with relevant people and is also going to show you that human side, but also that career side. So that's what I would recommend when you're actually going to write your bio on the LinkedIn side, and then to take that and convert it into 3 sentences for your resume, which at the top, you always want to have professional profile. And then you want to have 3, maximum 5 sentences. That's just hey, I'm Dana. I have, 10 years of experience in sales. I've grown accounts in companies like L'Oreal and blah, 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 that kind of thing. And so what you want to do is you want to write your LinkedIn bio first, get all of your story out, and then take that and pick out, okay, what are kind of 4 or 5 key points from the story that I want to communicate to someone that's going to just read this briefly, and that gets converted into your little professional profile on your resume.
Thank you. So thank you so much for those advices. Now I would love to okay, so you have plenty experience in Latin America as well. So if you can give us, is there any difference you have noticed, especially in terms of communications when you are working, let's say when you're writing an email, what's the main difference you have seen in Canada or in Latin America?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to go really broad first and then come down and give you an example. So I've lived in Mexico, Costa Rica, Argentina, and now Colombia. And obviously I'm Canadian in Toronto. So the majority of the time that I've been living in these countries, I've been working with people from Latin America and I've been working with people from North America. So it's been really interesting to see the difference. And even sometimes between the countries, I mean, Mexico is obviously part of North America, but I find Mexican culture and Colombian culture is different and how they do business as well. And so this has been really interesting. And what I've really witnessed is that there are three main cultural differences, kind of like there's like three different themes that are different. And then this impacts everything all the way from business to our social interactions. So they are the language, obviously. We're talking either Spanish or Portuguese versus English. The second one is going to be the cultural values. So as a society, what are our main values? And then the third one is what I consider the environment, which is more like the safety, the political environment, the financial system. And so when we take a look at it like this, obviously we have a difference in language. Spanish is a very indirect language. You need to add a lot of context when you're speaking. And if you ever see something translated from Spanish to English, usually the Spanish side is longer. Like usually it's saying the exact same thing in English, you can use less words. So that already is a difference, but you actually think about that. And it means that a lot of the time people going from Spanish to English, they think that they need to over explain because they're so used to doing that in Spanish, is adding a lot more context. So when we are talking about writing an email, what I have noticed and what so many people have told me is that their coworkers will say, like, you need to be more concise. You need to summarize more. So if you're sitting down to write an email, it might almost feel rude to you as someone from Latin America. And that's when you know that you're getting to the point where you're talking more like a North American, like, hey, Cynthia, confirming 8 a.m. meeting tomorrow, Dana. And that's like a completely polite way of confirming we have a meeting tomorrow. Someone from Latin America might be like, hey, Cynthia, super excited for tomorrow. Have you read over the questions? Do you have everything ready? Just confirming that tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. we're good. Let me know if you need anything. Have a great rest of your day and I'll see you tomorrow. So just, again, difference in the way that we express. And in North America, we value our time so much, kind of moving into the value side, that for me, it's more of just like, well, I don't need to take the extra time to write that. It's kind of a waste of my time. So I'm just going to write what I need to say and no more. And when we're talking about the values, it's so important to understand the major difference is that in North America, we value independence. Like that is the number one thing that we value is independence. And in Latin America, community and family is at the center of everything. That's literally the opposite. I left home when I was 17 years old to go to university. I moved halfway across the country and I've never lived at home. And that's really normal. So many of my friends in Latin America are 28, 30, 34, and they're living at home and that's normal. And so you can really see here, there's a massive difference in what that value is. And then translate that into the workplace. And it's like, no, we value people that are going to take initiative independently, go and bring results. And that's it. It's not like, oh, are you going to be the person that's making everybody happy? Like, that's great, but that's not the number one thing that people care about. And then lastly is this environmental factor. And I'm currently in Canada right now visiting family, but living in Bogota. And this has been honestly the biggest difference for me is the security when it comes to your physical security, when it comes to, trusting banks. Like so many people are unbanked in Latin America because there's no trust in where to put their money and people don't really know what to do with it. And then obviously the political situation. And so when you, again, think about this in a business environment, I will always talk about money on the first call if I'm selling something. If someone's asking me to do consulting or whatever, and I'm charging for it, that's always in the first conversation. And I have no doubt that I'm going to get that money. There's no doubt whatsoever. And they have no doubt that I'm going to show up and I'm going to do the thing and whatever. That level of trust does not exist in Latin America. So when you're asking for a raise, when you're negotiating for your salary, there's a lot more fear around, oh, am I going to ask for something and they're going to just never talk to me again because it's too much money? Or they're going to keep saying yes.
Absolutely. Dana, you're also an immigrant. We want to finish, because you're living now right now you are in Ottawa, as you said, but you are living in Colombia, right?
Yes.
And you have lived in other countries from Latin America as well. So I want to finish this interview asking, is there any advice you would like to give to an immigrant? Like, let's say from an immigrant to another immigrant, right? But I mean, it doesn't need to be professional, could be general. Is there any advice you would like to give us?
I think something that I've really learned, and I mean, I lived in Mexico last year when the pandemic was really bad, and I was in Merida, and I knew one person in the city that I was in, and I could barely see them because of the pandemic. And I kind of had a similar experience this time being in Bogota. So I was like very, very alone, you know? And I think that while usually if there's not a pandemic, you have more opportunities to meet people, I think that you really have to learn to love yourself, because you are going to be lonely. Even if you immigrate with someone else, like, you are going to be lonely. And what I've really realized is that I have to like love spending time with myself. I have to love being in my own head. And a really great way to do that is creating a home environment that feels like your safe space. So like when I walk into my apartment in Bogota, it is my space. I've curated it. I've decorated it the way that I want to. When I walk in, it's like, this is my space. I don't care if I went to the bank and I couldn't understand someone and I screwed up and I like accidentally paid too much to open my bank account. I don't care. It's just like, this is my space where I'm comfortable and I'm safe and I'm secure. So really making sure that you have that space wherever you are is going to make it easier, because you always know that you have like your home to come back to that you have created for yourself, which is a very empowering feeling. So that would be my piece of advice.
Wow, what a piece of advice. Thank you so much, Dana. Thank you for your time today. We really enjoy having this conversation with you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
My friends, and our next guest is already here. Her name is Claudia Valcárcel from Access Employment. Claudia is responsible for building relationships with community professionals and employers to create employment opportunities for international trained professionals like us. Claudia, I would like to start this interview talking about the Canadian experience. And the reason why I want to start this interview with this is because many very talented international professionals are coming to Canada. When they start looking for a job, they realize that, well, they don't have Canadian experience. Of course, they are absolutely new in this country. However, they are bringing a lot of experience from their countries. So I want to know if Canadian experience is a matter of values, is maybe how things are done in Canada. So in this way, we can help them so they can highlight, or they can know how to put their experience, their international experience, in a way they can match it with that Canadian experience. Claudia.
Absolutely. So mainly when we are talking about Canadian experience, it's about what you said, about the values, about the Canadian culture, the work culture that we have here in Canada. About those communication skills, certainly English skills is a great and basic important skill to have, and they are looking for that. But also more than that is communication skills. And here in Canada, that is an important factor for employers to make a hiring decision. So the Canadian experience is more about that, to have the knowledge and recognized what we have here as a Canadian workplace, the culture, English communications for sure, but communication skills. And that is what is gonna be able it will help a newcomer to overcome that kind of barrier when we all hear about, Canadian experience, right? A company or to obtain a job. However, once again, having knowledge and to learn and to know the Canadian workplace communication skills is what is going to help newcomers to integrate into the employment sector. And once again, the employers are looking for candidates who are ready to contribute. Therefore, it is important that whoever is applying for a job opportunity is able to communicate what they can bring to the company, and therefore that experience and professional background that you are bringing to the country is going to be the main factor for the hiring decision here in Canada.
Absolutely. Many people here are going to be coming to this beautiful country, to Canada, and they are going to change their career, because that's also something possible.
That happens
right?
sometimes.
Of course. So I think this is such a great opportunity to talk about transferable skills. right? So if you can
Right.
give us a bit more information about them, what exactly does that mean? How we can put those ones in our resume?
Of course. Actually, transferable skills will apply not only for a career change, Cynthia, but also it is a possibility that you may continue this in the same industry, but perhaps not the same profile or the same roles that you were used when you in your former country. So transferable skills are those that we consider those that you can use at any point in a specific job opportunity or in a specific industry. Talking about transferable skills, we can say, for example, what are those transferable skills? It could be customer service, it could be project management, it could be as well managing people. Those are the skills that no matter what type of job you're going to do, you will be able, once again, you will be able to transfer that to apply to the specific role that you're applying for. And yes, sometimes transferable skills are necessary if you are doing a career change. For some of the professional profiles of some of the professions here in Canada, since they need to be licensed, perhaps you need at some point to consider an alternative career. Therefore, yes, the transferable skills come in place here. But also, for example, and because I work more with the engineering international trained professionals, in engineering, the engineers are bringing experience in different sectors or different disciplines and different fields as well. For example, someone from oil and gas. Now here, perhaps the employment opportunities are less. There are not as many as we wish they be here. Let's say here in Toronto, sorry. Therefore, for a person who had worked in a oil and gas industry, they are used to deal with a large number of projects with large number of team members and projects that are budgets thousands of dollars. So those skills and that experience that you have between the sector will help you to be perhaps to apply for the similar roles, let's say for an engineering project manager or engineering project coordinator in a different industry, not in the oil and gas, but perhaps in the construction sector or in manufacturing. So transferable skills kind of plays an important role, either if you are making a career change or if you are working in the same discipline, but different industry, for example, or applying for different role that you are not used to.
Claudia, my next question is about, like, as you have said, I mean, the Canadian job market is so competitive, right? Like a recruiter is going to take a look to, you said 200 to 800 or maybe more resumes. So I want to ask you, like, is there any advice you could give to our audience when we need to stand out from that crowd?
Actually, yes, Cynthia. Nowadays, even now after the new, I mean, let's say now in our new normal, before the pandemic, of course, it was really important that you were able to communicate how you define yourself as the right candidate for specific roles. But nowadays, because of the pandemic, of course, the employment rate, the economic, everything has had a negative impact. There are competition is out there, and even more in job seekers. Therefore, you need to stand out. You need to make sure that always you are looking to innovate about how you apply for job opportunities. You need to make sure to stand out and be able to say, okay, this is what I am good for. And having said that, something that we use in the employment practice is the elevator pitch. The elevator pitch is something that will give you an opportunity to provide information about yourself in this case about your professional profile, that will catch the attention from others, from the employer, from a recruiter. So same happens in a resume or job application. Normally, it is recommended that you also put together a cover letter with your resume. And here is where you will also use your elevator pitch. So you need to make sure that you are mentioning how good you are and what you can do for the company. What type of qualifications and experience you bring that will help the company, that will help the role that you are applying for. That is what is going to help you to stand out in this competitive world in terms of the job search. Also, once again, you need to be strategic. You need to be able to provide information about your achievements in that, and also to quantify those achievements, to be able to say, okay, I have done this, provide numbers, provide percentage. Quantify those achievements are important. So quantify the achievements, make sure that you provide information about what you can do for the company and how you can help to the role that you're applying for. That is what is going to help you in this competitive job market.
Absolutely. Claudia, you are part of Access Employment. So I would love you, if you can please give us more details on what exactly the organization is doing, because I'm sure many people from our audience might take advantage of the organization.
Thank you, Cynthia. Well, Access Employment is a non-for-profit organization, and we are an employment community agency helping job seekers and employers. And Access has been helping the community for more than 30 years. We have different programs that have been put together to support job seekers with barriers. So newcomers, youth, adult, all type of job seekers here. And we work together with employers as well. We work together in collaboration with our network of employers to be able to offer employment opportunities to job seekers. And also we have a model that implements different initiatives. We want to make sure that our collaboration with employers will bring also opportunities for networking, professional development. So we put together guest speaking sessions, student mentoring activities, networking events as well. Once again, these are resources that will also assist job seekers in this journey. So Access Employment put together this type of strategies that we feel it will certainly benefit the job search to job seekers. And also we have different offices across GTA. We have been helping, for example, this past year, over 39,000 job seekers. And once again, 30 years in the community, we are one of the lead employment organizations here in GTA. And we have different programs that are available to job seekers that are also somehow we also make sure to customize the services that we provide to the specific individuals based on their needs as well. So Access Employment is an employment community agency. Our services are free of charge. We are funded by the government of Canada. And once again, we work together with employers as well, and we support employers and job seekers to connect.
That's amazing. And I'm sure many people from our audience might take advantage of all the service provided by Access Employment. So if somebody wants to connect or contact Access Employment, you can stay in touch.
Of course, Cynthia. Yes, thank you for that. And certainly we are, it is easy to reach out to Access. I can always provide you with the website, www.accessemployment.ca. And the website provides information and ways to connect with us. We are on LinkedIn as well, Instagram, Facebook. So we also try to reach out to the community through our social media for sure.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Claudia. So Claudia, we're starting to close this interview. I want to ask you, is there any advice you can give to an immigrant who is just starting to look for a job in the Canadian job market?
Wow. Well, Well, I am also an immigrant myself. I have the privilege to come to the country a couple of years ago, and I will say that be open-minded, be willing to learn and engage in a new culture. This is a new horizon. This is a country that will open opportunities, and we need to take advantage of that. It is important that we reinvent ourselves, but most of all, we need to be confident and to trust in ourselves to be able to overcome all the challenges that an immigrant might come across. It's not going to be easy. It's not easy. The journey is not easy. Perhaps it's easier for some more than others. But at the end of the day, I always say to our job seekers and to our clients, at the end of the day, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And we are in one of the best countries of the world. Canada is one of the best. We are in the best country at the right time, and therefore we need to embrace this opportunity. So just trust in yourself, be open-minded, and always look forward.
Wow, that was a powerful way to close this interview. Thank you so much, Claudia, for your time, for sharing all your knowledge with us today, and for being part of our first episode of Newcomer, New Me.
Thank you, Cynthia, for this invite. I really appreciate it, and it is a pleasure always be able to connect with the community.
And thank you all of you for being with us today in our podcast, Newcomer, New Me. This podcast was brought to you by Hispanotech and Beverage Canada. And let me tell you that our next episode will be about networking, so you don't want to miss it. Bye.